Heathcliff Andrew Ledger, the 4th of April 1922 January 2008, was an Australian actor and director. After performing roles in Australian television and film during the 1990s, Ledger left for the United States in 1998 to develop his film career. His work comprised 19 films, including 10 Things I Hate About You, 1999, The Patriot, 2000, A Knight's Tale, 2001, Monsters Ball, 2001, Ned Kelly, 2003, The Brothers Grimm, 2005, Lords of Dogtown, 2005, Brokeback Mountain, 2005, Casanova, 2005, Candy, 2006, I'm Not There, 2007, The Dark Knight, 2008, and The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, 2009. He also produced and directed music videos and aspired to be a film director. For his portrayal of Ennis Delmar in Brokeback Mountain, Ledger won the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Actor and Best International Actor from the Australian Film Institute, and was nominated for the BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role and for the Academy Award for Best Actor. Posthumously he shared the 2007 Independent Spirit Robert Altman Award with the rest of the ensemble cast, the director, and the casting director for the film I'm Not There, which was inspired by the life and songs of American singer-songwriter Bob Dylan. In the film, Ledger portrayed a fictional actor named Robbie Clark, one of 6 characters embodying aspects of Dylan's life and persona. Ledger died on the 22nd of January 2008 from an accidental intoxication from prescription drugs. A few months before his death, Ledger had finished filming his performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight. His death occurred during editing of The Dark Knight and in the midst of filming his last role as Tony in The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. His untimely death cast a somber shadow over the subsequent promotion of the $185 million Batman production. Ledger received numerous posthumous accolades for his critically acclaimed performance in the film, including the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, a Best Actor International Award at the 2008 Australian Film Institute Awards, for which he became the first actor to win an award posthumously, the 2008 Los Angeles Film Critics Association Award for Best Supporting Actor, the 2009 Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor, Motion Picture, and the 2009 BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actor. Early life. Ledger was born on the 4th of April 1979 in Perth, Western Australia, the son of Sally Ledger, née Ramshaw, a French teacher, and Kim Ledger, a racecar driver and mining engineer whose family established and owned the Ledger Engineering Foundry. The Sir Frank Ledger Charitable Trust is named after his great-grandfather. He had English, Irish, and Scottish ancestry. Ledger attended Mary's Mount Primary School in Gooseberry Hill, and later Guildford Grammar School, where he had his first acting experiences, starring in a school production as Peter Pan at age 10. His parents separated when he was 10 and divorced when he was 11. Ledger's older sister Kate, an actress and later a publicist, to whom he was very close, inspired his acting on stage, and his love of Gene Kelly inspired his successful choreography, leading to Guildford Grammar's 60-member team's first all-boy victory at the Rock Eisteddfod Challenge. Heath's and Kate's other siblings include 2 half-sisters, Ashley Bell, b. 1990, his mother's daughter with her second husband and his stepfather Roger Bell, and Olivia Ledger, b. 1996, his father's daughter with second wife and his stepmother Emma Brown. Career. 1990s. After sitting for early graduation exams at age 17, Ledger left school to pursue an acting career. With Trevor DiCarlo, his best friend since he was 3 years old, Ledger drove across Australia from Perth to Sydney, returning to Perth to take a small role in Clowning Around, 1992, the first part of a 2-part television series, and to work on the TV series Sweat, 1996, in which he played a gay cyclist. From 1993 to 1997, Ledger also had parts in the Perth television series Ship to Shore, 1993, in the short-lived Fox Broadcasting Company fantasy drama Roar, 1997, in Home and Away, 1997, one of Australia's most successful television shows, and in the Australian film Black Rock, 1997, his feature film debut. In 1999, he starred in the teen comedy 10 Things I Hate About You and in the acclaimed Australian crime film Two Hands, directed by Gregor Jordan. 2000s. From 2000 to 2005, he starred in supporting roles as Gabriel Martin, the eldest son of Benjamin Martin, Mel Gibson, in The Patriot, 2000, and as Sonny Grotowski, the son of Hank Grotowski, Billy Bob Thornton, in Monsters Ball, 2000, and in in leading or title roles in A Knight's Tale, 2001, The Four Feathers, 2002, The Order, 2003, Ned Kelly, 2003, Casanova, 2005, The Brothers Grimm, 2005, and Lords of Dogtown, 2005. In 2001, he won a Showist Award as Male Star of Tomorrow. Ledger received Best Actor of 2005 awards from both the New York Film Critics Circle and the San Francisco Film Critics Circle for his performance in Brokeback Mountain, in which he plays Wyoming ranch hand Ennis Del Mar, who has a love affair with aspiring rodeo rider Jack Twist, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He also received a nomination for Golden Globe Best Actor in a Drama and a nomination for Academy Award for Best Actor for this performance, making him, at age 26, the 9th youngest nominee for a Best Actor Oscar. In the New York Times review of the film, critic Stephen Holden writes, both Mr. Ledger and Mr. Gyllenhaal make this anguished love story physically palpable. Mr. Ledger magically and mysteriously disappears beneath the skin of his lean, sinewy character. It is a great screen performance, as good as the best of Marlon Brando and Sean Penn. In a review in Rolling Stone, Peter Travers states, Ledger's magnificent performance is an acting miracle. He seems to tear it from his insides. Ledger doesn't just know how Ennis moves, speaks and listens, he knows how he breathes. To see him inhale the scent of a shirt hanging in Jack's closet is to take measure of the pain of love lost. After Brokeback Mountain, Ledger co-starred with fellow Australian Abbie Cornish in the 2006 Australian film Candy, an adaptation of the 1998 novel Candy, a novel of love and addiction, as young heroin addicts in love attempting to break free of their addiction, whose mentor is played by Geoffrey Rush. For his performance as sometime poet Dan, Ledger was nominated for 3 Best Actor awards, including one of the Film Critics Circle of Australia awards, which both Cornish and Rush won in their categories. Shortly after the release of Candy, Ledger was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, as one of 6 actors embodying different aspects of the life of Bob Dylan in the 2007 film I'm Not There, directed by Todd Haynes. Ledger won praise for his portrayal of Robbie Clark, a moody, counterculture actor who represents the romanticist side of Dylan, but says accolades are never his motivation. Posthumously, on the 23rd of February 2008, he shared the 2007 Independent Spirit Robert Altman Award with the rest of the film's ensemble cast, its director, and its casting director. In his penultimate film performance, Ledger played the Joker in Christopher Nolan's 2008 film The Dark Knight, released nearly 6 months after his death. While working on the film in London, Ledger told Sarah Lyle in their New York Times interview that he viewed The Dark Knight's Joker as a psychopathic, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy. For his work on The Dark Knight, Ledger won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor with his family accepting it on his behalf, as well as numerous other posthumous awards, including the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor, which Christopher Nolan accepted for him. At the time of his death on the 22nd of January 2008, Ledger had completed about half of the work for his final film performance as Tony in Terry Gilliam's The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Gilliam chose to adapt the film after his death by having fellow actors Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell play fantasy transformations of his character so that Ledger's final performance could be seen in theaters. Directorial work. Ledger had aspirations to become a film director and had made some music videos, which director Todd Haynes praised highly in his tribute to Ledger upon accepting the ISP Robert Altman Award, which Ledger posthumously shared, on the 23rd of February 2008. In 2006, Ledger directed music videos for the title track on Australian hip-hop artist Nifa's CD debut solo album Cause and Effect and for the single Seduction is Evil, She's Hot. Later that year, Ledger inaugurated a new record label, Masses Music, with singer Ben Harper and also directed a music video for Harper's song Morning Yearning. At a news conference at the 2007 Venice Film Festival, Ledger spoke of his desire to make a documentary film about the British singer-songwriter Nick Drake, who died in 1974, at the age of 26, from an overdose of an antidepressant. Ledger created and acted in a music video set to Drake's recording of the singer's 1974 song about depression Black Eyed Dog, a title inspired by Winston Churchill's descriptive term for depression, Black Dog. It was shown publicly only twice, first at the Bumbershoot Festival, in Seattle, held from 1 to the 3rd of September 2007, and secondly as part of A Place to Be, a celebration of Nick Drake, with its screening of Their Place, Reflections on Nick Drake, a series of short-filmed homages to Nick Drake, including Ledger's, sponsored sponsored by American Cinematheque, at the Grauman's Egyptian Theater, in Hollywood, on 5 October 2007. After Ledger's death, his music video for Black Eyed Dog was shown on the internet and excerpted in news clips distributed via YouTube. He was working with Scottish screenwriter and producer Alan Scott on an adaptation of the 1983 novel The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis, which would have been his first feature film as a director. He also intended to act in the film, with Canadian actress Ellen Page proposed in the lead role. Ledger's final directorial work, in which he shot 2 music videos before his death, premiered in 2009. The music videos, completed for Modest Mouse and Grace Woodroof, include an animated feature for Modest Mouse's song, King Rat, and the Woodroof video for her cover of David Bowie's Quicksand. The King Rat video premiered on 4 August 2009. Personal life. Ledger was an avid chess player, winning Western Australia's Junior Chess Championship at the age of 10. As an adult, he often played with other chess enthusiasts at Washington Square Park. Alan Scott's film adaptation of the chess-related 1983 novel The Queen's Gambit, by Walter Tevis, which at the time of his death he was planning to both perform in and direct, would have been Ledger's first feature film as a director. Relationships. Ledger had relationships with actresses Lisa Zane, Heather Graham and Naomi Watts. In 2004, he met and began dating actress Michelle Williams on the set of Brokeback Mountain. Their daughter, Matilda Rose, was born on 28 October 2005 in New York City. Matilda's godparents are Brokeback co-star Jake Gyllenhaal and Williams' Dawson's Creek castmate Busy Phillips. In January 2006, Ledger put his residence in Bronte, New South Wales up for sale, and returned to the United States, where he shared a house with Williams, in Boerum Hill, Brooklyn, from 2005 to 2007. In September 2007, Williams' father confirmed to Sydney's Daily Telegraph that Ledger and Williams had ended their relationship. After his breakup with Williams, in late 2007 and early 2008, the tabloid press and other public media linked Ledger romantically with supermodels Helena Christensen and Gemma Ward. On 30 January 2011, Ward stated that the pair began dating in November 2007 and their families spent Christmas together in their hometown of Perth. Press controversies. Ledger's relationship with the press in Australia was sometimes turbulent, and it led to his abandonment of plans for his family to reside part-time in Sydney. In 2004, he strongly denied press reports alleging that he spat at journalists on the Sydney set of the film Candy, or that one of his relatives had done so later, outside Ledger's Sydney home. On 13 January 2006, several members of the paparazzi retaliated, squirting Ledger and Williams with water pistols on the red carpet at the Sydney premiere of Brokeback Mountain. After his performance on stage at the 2005 Screen Actors Guild Awards, when he had giggled in presenting Brokeback Mountain as a nominee for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture, the Los Angeles Times referred to his presentation as an apparent gay spoof. Ledger called the Times later and explained that his levity resulted from stage fright, saying that he had been told that he would be presenting the award only minutes earlier. He stated, "I am so sorry and I apologize for my nervousness. I would be absolutely horrified if my stage fright was misinterpreted as a lack of respect for the film, the topic and for the amazing filmmakers." Ledger was quoted in January 2006 in Melbourne's Herald Sun as saying that he heard that West Virginia had banned Brokeback Mountain, which it had not. Actually, a cinema in Utah had banned the film. He had also referred mistakenly to West Virginia's having had lynchings as recently as the 1980s, but state scholars disputed his statement, observing that, whereas lynchings did occur in Alabama as recently as 1981, according to the director of State Archives and History quoted in the Charleston Gazette, the last documented lynching in West Virginia took place in Lewisburg in 1931. Health issues. In their New York Times interview, published on 4 November 2007, Ledger told Sarah Lyle that his recently completed roles in I'm Not There, 2007, and The Dark Knight, 2008, had taken a toll on his ability to sleep. "Last week I probably slept an average of 2 hours a night. I couldn't stop thinking. My body was exhausted, and my mind was still going." At that time, he told Lyle that he had taken 2 Ambien pills, after taking just one had not sufficed, and those left him in a stupor, only to wake up an hour later, his mind still racing. Prior to his return to New York from his last film assignment, in London, in January 2008, while he was apparently suffering from some kind of respiratory illness, he reportedly complained to his co-star from the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, Christopher Plummer, that he was continuing to have difficulty sleeping and taking pills to help with that problem, confirming earlier reports that Ledger hadn't been feeling well on set. Plummer says, "We all caught colds because we were shooting outside on horrible, damp nights." But Heath's went on, "And I don't think he dealt with it immediately with the antibiotics. I think what he did have was the walking pneumonia. On top of that, he was saying all the time, 'Damn it, I can't sleep,' and he was taking all these pills to help him." In talking with Interview magazine, after his death, Ledger's former fiancée Michelle Williams also confirmed reports the actor had experienced trouble sleeping. "For as long as I'd known him, he had bouts with insomnia. He had too much energy. His mind was turning, always turning." Death. At about 2:45 p.m. Est, on the 22nd of January 2008, Ledger was found unconscious in his bed by his housekeeper, Teresa Solomon, and his masseuse, Deanna Wolosing, in his fourth-floor loft apartment at 421 Broome Street in the Soho neighborhood of Manhattan. According to the police, Wolosing, who had arrived early for a 3 p.m. appointment with Ledger, called Ledger's friend Mary Kate Olsen for help. Olsen, who was in California, directed a New York City private security guard to go to the scene. At 3:26 p.m., less than 15 minutes after she first saw him in bed and only a few moments after the first call to Ms. Olsen, Wolosing telephoned 911 to say that Mr. Ledger was not breathing. At the urging of the 911 operator, Wolosing administered CPR, which was unsuccessful in reviving him. Paramedics and emergency medical technicians arrived 7 minutes later, at 3:33 p.m., at almost exactly the same moment as a private security guard summoned by Ms. Olsen, but were also unable to revive him. At 3:36 p.m., Ledger was pronounced dead, and his body was removed from the apartment. Autopsy and toxicology report. 2 weeks later, on the 6th of February 2008, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner of New York released its conclusions, based on an initial autopsy of the 23rd of January 2008 and a subsequent complete toxicological analysis. The report concludes, in part, Mr. Heath Ledger died as the result of acute intoxication by the combined effects of oxycodone, hydrocodone, diazepam, temazepam, alprazolam and doxylamine. It states definitively, "We have concluded that the manner of death is accident, resulting from the abuse of prescribed medications." While the medications found in the toxicological analysis may be prescribed in the United States for insomnia, anxiety, pain, or common cold, doxylamine symptoms, the vast majority of physicians in the U.S. are extremely reluctant to prescribe multiple benzodiazepina, e.g., diazepam, alprazolam, and temazepam, to a single patient, let alone prescribe the same to a patient already taking a mix of oxycodone and hydrocodone. Although the Associated Press and other media reported that police estimate Ledger's time of death between 1 p.m. and 2:45 p.m., on the 22nd of January 2008, the medical examiner's office announced that it would not be publicly disclosing the official estimated time of death. The official announcement of the cause and manner of Ledger's death heightened concerns about the growing problems of prescription drug abuse or misuse and combined drug intoxication. Cdi Federal Investigation. Late in February 2008, a DIA investigation of medical professionals relating to Ledger's death exonerated 2 American physicians, who practice in Los Angeles and Houston, of any wrongdoing, determining that the doctors in question had prescribed Ledger other medications, not the pills that killed him. On the 4th of August 2008, citing unnamed sources, Murray Weiss, of the New York Post, first reported that Mary Kate Olsen had refused her attorney, Michael C. Miller, to be interviewed by federal investigators probing the accidental drug death of her close friend Heath Ledger, without immunity from prosecution, and that, when asked about the matter, Miller at first declined further comment. Later that day, after the police confirmed the gist of Weiss's account to the Associated Press, Miller issued a statement denying that Olsen supplied Ledger with the drugs causing his death and asserting that she did not know their source. In his statement, Miller said specifically, "Despite tabloid speculation, Mary Kate Olsen had nothing whatsoever to do with the drugs found in Heath Ledger's home or his body, and she does not know where he obtained them," emphasizing that media descriptions to an unidentified source are incomplete and inaccurate. After a flurry of further media speculation, on the 6th of August 2008, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan closed its investigation into Ledger's death without filing any charges and rendering moot its subpoena of Olsen. With the clearing of the 2 doctors and Olsen, and the closing of the investigation because the prosecutors in the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office don't believe there's a viable target, it is still not known known how Ledger obtained the oxycodone and hydrocodone in the lethal drug combination that killed him. 11 months after Ledger's death, on the 23rd of December 2008, Jake Coyle, writing for the Associated Press, announced that Heath Ledger's death was voted 2008's top entertainment story by U.S. newspaper and broadcast editors surveyed by the Associated Press because it resulted in shock and confusion about the circumstances, the ruling of the death as an accident caused by a toxic combination of prescription drugs, and the continuation of his legacy, in a roundly acclaimed performance as the Joker in the year's biggest box office hit The Dark Knight. Controversy over will. After Ledger's death, in response to some press reports about his will, filed in New York City on the 28th of February 2008, and his daughter's access to his financial legacy, his father, Kim Ledger, said that he considered the financial well-being of his granddaughter Matilda Rose the Ledger family's absolute priority and her mother, Michelle Williams, an integral part of our family, adding they will be taken care of and that's how Heath would want it to be. Some of Ledger's relatives may be challenging the legal status of his will signed in 2003, prior to his involvement with Williams and the birth of their daughter and not updated to include them, which divides half of his estate between his parents and half among his siblings. They claim that there is a second, unsigned will, which leaves most of that estate to Matilda Rose. Williams' father, Larry Williams, has also joined the controversy about Ledger's will as it was filed in New York City soon after his death, on the 31st of March 2008, stimulating another controversy pertaining to Ledger's estate. Gemma Jones and Janet Fife Yeomans published an exclusive report, in the Daily Telegraph, citing Ledger's uncle Hayden Ledger and other family members, who believe the late actor may have fathered a secret love child when he was 17, and stating that if it is confirmed that Ledger is the girl's biological father, it could split his multi-million-dollar estate between Matilda Rose and his secret love child. A few days later, reports citing telephone interviews with Ledger's uncles Hayden and Mike Ledger and the family of the other little girl, published in OK and Us Weekly, denied those claims, with Ledger's uncles and the little girl's mother and stepfather describing them as unfounded rumors distorted and exaggerated by the media. On the 15th of July 2008, Fife Yeomans reported further, via Australian News Limited, that while Ledger left everything to his parents and three sisters, it is understood they have legal advice that under Western Australia law, Matilda Rose is entitled to the lion's share of his estate. Its executors, Kim Ledger's former business colleague Robert John Collins and Gerald accountant William Mark Dyson, have applied for probate in the West Australian Supreme Court in Perth, advertising for creditors and other persons having claims on the estate to lodge them by the 11th of August 2008, to ensure all debts are paid before the estate is distributed. According to this report by Fife Yeomans, earlier reports citing Ledger's uncles, and subsequent reports citing Ledger's father, which do not include his actual posthumous earnings, his entire fortune, mostly held in Australian trusts, is likely to be worth up to $20 million. On the 27th of September 2008, Ledger's father Kim stated that the family has agreed to leave the $16.3 million fortune to Matilda, adding, "There is no claim. Our family has gifted everything to Matilda." In October 2008, Forbes estimated Ledger's annual earnings from October 2007 through October 2008 including his posthumous share of The Dark Knight's gross income of $1 billion in box office revenue worldwide, as $20 million. Legacy, memorial tributes and services. As the news of Ledger's death became public, throughout the night of the 22nd of January 2008, and the next day, media crews, mourners, fans, and other onlookers began gathering outside his apartment building, with some leaving flowers or other memorial tributes. The next day, at 10:50 a.m. Australian time, Ledger's parents and sister appeared outside his mother's house in Applecross, a riverside suburb of Perth, and read a short statement to the media expressing their grief and desire for privacy. Within the next few days, memorial tributes were communicated by family members, the Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, the Deputy Premier of Western Australia, Eric Ripper, Warner Brothers, distributor of The Dark Knight, and thousands of Ledger's fans around the world. Several actors made statements expressing their sorrow at Ledger's death, including Daniel Day-Lewis, who dedicated his Screen Actors Guild Award to him, saying that he was inspired by Ledger's acting. Day-Lewis praised Ledger's performances in Monsters Ball and Brokeback Mountain, describing the latter as unique, perfect. Vern Troyer, who was working with Ledger on the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus at the time of his death, had a heart shape, an exact duplicate of a symbol that Ledger scrawled on a piece of paper with his email address, tattooed on his hand in remembrance of Ledger because Ledger had made such an impression on him. British indie band Kasabian paid tribute to Ledger in their song, Vlad the Impaler, with the line Joker, meet you on the other side. Singer Tom Maghan often changes the word Joker to either Ledger, or the names of recently deceased celebrities. On the 1st of February, in her first public statement after Ledger's death, Michelle Williams expressed her heartbreak and described Ledger's spirit as surviving in their daughter. After attending private memorial ceremonies in Los Angeles, Ledger's family members returned with his body to Perth. On the 9th of February, a memorial service attended by several hundred invited guests was held at Penrose College, attracting considerable press attention. Afterward, Ledger's body was cremated at Fremantle Cemetery, followed by a private service attended by only 10 closest family members, with his ashes interred later in a family plot at Karrakatta Cemetery, next to 2 of his grandparents. Later that night, his family and friends gathered for a wake on Cottesloe Beach. In January 2011, the State Theatre Centre of Western Australia in Ledger's hometown of Perth named a 575-seat theatre the Heath Ledger Theatre after him. For the opening of the theatre, Ledger's Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor was on display in the theatre's foyer along with his Joker costume. Posthumous Films and Awards. Ledger's death affected the marketing campaign for Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, 2008, and also both the production and marketing of Terry Gilliam's film The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, with both directors intending to celebrate and pay tribute to his work in these films. Although Gilliam temporarily suspended production on the latter film, he expressed determination to salvage it, perhaps using computer-generated imagery, CGI, and dedicated it to Ledger. In February 2008, as a memorial tribute to the man many have called one of the best actors of his generation, Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell signed on to take over Ledger's role, becoming multiple incarnations of his character, Tony, transformed in this magical retelling of the Faust story. The 3 actors donated their fees for the film to Ledger's and Williams's daughter. Speaking of editing The Dark Knight, on which Ledger had completed his work in October 2007, Nolan recalled, "It was tremendously emotional, right when he passed, having to go back in and look at him every day. But the truth is, I feel very lucky to have something productive to do, to have a performance that he was very, very proud of, and that he had entrusted to me to finish." All of Ledger's scenes appear as he completed them in the filming. In editing the film, Nolan added no digital effects to alter Ledger's actual performance posthumously. Nolan dedicated the film in part to Ledger's memory, as well as to the memory of technician Conway Wycliffe, who was killed during a car accident while preparing one of the film's stunts. Released in July 2008, The Dark Knight broke several box office records and received both popular and critical accolades, especially with regard to Ledger's performance as the Joker. Even film critic David Denby, who does not praise the film overall in his pre-release review in The New Yorker, evaluates Ledger's work highly, describing his performance as both sinister and frightening and Ledger as mesmerizing in every scene, concluding, "His performance is a heroic, unsettling final act." This young actor looked into the abyss, attempting to dispel widespread speculations that Ledger's performance as the Joker had in any way led to his death. As Denby and others suggest, Ledger's co-star and friend Christian Bale, who played opposite him as Batman, has stressed that, as an actor, Ledger greatly enjoyed meeting the challenges of creating that role, an experience that Ledger himself described as the most fun I've ever had, or probably ever will have, playing a character. Terry Gilliam also refuted the claims that playing the Joker made him crazy, calling it absolute nonsense and going on to say, "Heath was so solid, his feet were on the ground and he was the least neurotic person I've ever met." Ledger received numerous awards for his Joker role in The Dark Knight. On the 10th of November 2008, he was nominated for 2 People's Choice Awards related to his work on the film, Best Ensemble Cast and Best On-Screen Matchup, shared with Christian Bale, and Ledger won an award for matchup in the ceremony aired live on CBS in January 2009. On the 11th of December 2008, it was announced that Ledger had been nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor, Motion Picture for his performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight. He subsequently won the award at the 66th Golden Globe Awards ceremony telecast on NBC on the 11th of January 2009 with Dark Knight director Christopher Nolan accepting on his behalf. Film critics, co-stars Maggie Gyllenhaal and Michael Caine and many of Ledger's colleagues in the film community joined Bale in calling for and predicting a nomination for the 2008 Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in recognition of Ledger's achievement in The Dark Knight. Ledger's subsequent nomination was announced on the 22nd of January 2009, the anniversary of his death. Ledger went on to win the award, becoming the second person to win a posthumous Academy Award for acting, after fellow Australian actor Peter Finch, who won for 1976's Network, and the first comic book movie to win an Oscar for acting. The award was accepted by Ledger's family, full Filmography, music videos, 2006, Cause and Effect and Seduction is Evil, She's Hot, songs by NFA, videos directed by Ledger, 2006, Morning Yearning, song by Ben Harper, video directed by Ledger, 2007, Black Eyed Dog, song written by Nick Drake, 1948 to 1974, video directed by and featuring Ledger, 2009, King Rat, song by Modest Mouse and conceived by Ledger,